Number 11. An ancient alien civilization? So far, scientists have only found evidence of microscopic life forms possibly existing on Mars. They're almost completely confident that the atmosphere never had enough oxygen to host anything bigger or more complex. But this doesn't stop people from fantasizing about a past civilization there. In 2017, California Congressman Dana Rohrabacher asked planetary scientists to investigate the possibility of an ancient alien society living on the red planet thousands of years ago. He referenced recent discoveries of Mars once being home to large bodies of water as evidence that this was possible. During an inquiry on the matter, panelist and NASA scientist Ken Farley tried to explain that any water on Mars dried up billions of years ago, and that there's no evidence of aliens ever having lived there. Rohrabacher asked Farley why he would rule the possibility out, and he responded that he considered it highly unlikely. Our fascination with Mars dates back to the early 19th century, when telescopes improved and gave us a much better look at the planet. And it's only going to continue growing as space technology advances, with rovers like Curiosity and Perseverance capturing the most detailed images yet, and scientists working to eventually send astronauts there. Number 10. Dust Devil Tracks. In 2018, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter snapped photos of dark, claw-like tracks across a collection of brightly colored Martian dunes. While they look somewhat like the footprints of a monster, they're actually created by swirling columns of strong winds called dust devils. This phenomenon also happens on Earth, but the dust devils on Mars are much taller, often reaching as much as 5 miles, 8 kilometers into the sky. And they can get even bigger than that. In 2012, NASA recorded a colossal dust devil measuring 12 miles, 20 kilometers high. In their wake, they leave huge patterns of dark streaks, with each track measuring up to 98 feet, 30 meters wide, and 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers long. By studying dust devils, scientists hope to learn more about the wind patterns on Mars and how they affect the formation of dunes. Number 9. A face. News headlines around the world went crazy in 1976 over an image of what looked like a human face protruding from the Martian surface. From the beginning of all the hype, scientists claimed that the formation was merely a pile of rocks that looked like a face, much like how we interpret the shapes of clouds as resembling different objects. According to the experts, the lights and shadows in the photo played out in just the right way. Nothing more, nothing less. But that explanation isn't very exciting. So, of course, conspiracy theorists let their imaginations run wild and adamantly deny that the site was formed naturally. Many claim that the face is evidence of life on Mars, and some believers even argued that it represents the remnants of buildings left behind by an ancient alien civilization. Both NASA and the European Space Agency took more detailed photos of the face and concluded, not surprisingly, that their original analysis was correct, that the face is nothing more than an optical illusion. Skeptics claim that they were pressured into saying that and covering up the truth. But what do you think? Number 8. Garbage. Earlier this year, NASA's Perseverance rover purposely dropped a piece of its equipment on the rocky surface of the red planet. No, it wasn't littering. The robot landed on Mars with a protective shield called a belly pan covering its sampling system. It had to shed this panel in order to carry out its work, taking samples of rock and soil that will be retrieved during a later mission. After dropping the pan, the machine used its robotic arm to snap photos of its undercarriage. NASA also published footage of a practice run of the ejection process before sending Perseverance to Mars. The rover's sampling system contains 43 tubes for storing materials, which will be left on the planet's surface until another machine comes and collects them at some point in the future. In addition to ditching its belly pan, Perseverance left a few other things on the Martian surface. When it first arrived on the red planet in February, the machine's descent was anything but graceful. It crash-landed, causing a huge plume of smoke to rise from the ground. Thankfully, scientists planned for this to happen, and they built the rover to withstand the impact by equipping it with landing gear that was designed to be discarded during the landing process. Number 7. A gorilla. British tabloids thought it would be a fun idea to get their readers worked up in early 2016 by featuring what they claimed was a photo of a gorilla on Mars. Captured by NASA's Curiosity rover in 2004, the image drew little attention when the agency first released it. But then it appeared on a YouTube video made by someone known only as Mr. Enigma. The claims in the video inspired far-flung headlines across mainstream media, adding the so-called gorilla to a growing list of animals that people believe they've identified in pictures of the Martian landscape. Extraterrestrial enthusiasts reportedly spent hours scouring the internet for an earthly species they could correlate with the alleged primate. Some people even believed that the photo also featured a camel, while others somehow saw a mother bear and her cub. It's arguably outlandish to think that animals we're familiar with on Earth could also somehow exist in space. But the gorilla sighting is just one example of how this belief has spread like wildfire over the years. In fact, in some of his other YouTube videos, Mr. Enigma has claimed to spot an octopus, an Egyptian statue, and other out-of-place items and creatures on the Red Planet. It's easy to assume that this content was created by someone with an oversized imagination and too much time on their hands. But he's not the only person to do this. Plenty of other conspiracy theorists have reported seeing crabs, lizards, bears, rabbits, and other animals in photos of Mars. As always, the scientific community stands by its claims that these are nothing more than rocks and other natural features of the landscape. Number 6. An out-of-place boulder. In late 2020, NASA's Curiosity rover encountered a noticeably out-of-place boulder on Mars. The gigantic rock is shiny and black and looks nothing like the surrounding landscape. It was spotted on a peak called Mount Sharp. The Curiosity team took note of the conspicuous mass and planned to further investigate in hopes of figuring out exactly what it is. Based on its distinct color, they believe it could be a meteorite. In the past, the rover has detected similar rocks that turned out to be iron meteorites. The boulder could also come from a different part of Mount Sharp. Scientists from the Mars Science Laboratory named the rock Island de Var after a Scottish island. This is just one of many fascinating discoveries that the Curiosity rover has made since it landed on Mars in 2012. In February, it was joined by the Perseverance rover, which is scouring the planet's surface for signs of ancient life and collecting rock and soil samples that researchers hope to eventually bring back to Earth. Number 5. A thigh bone? Many people who believe that there was once life on Mars will cling to whatever evidence they can find. Such is the case with an alleged thigh bone that NASA's Curiosity rover took snapshots of in 2014. Conspiracy theorists and alien fanatics noticed the femur-like formation and ran wild with their belief that it proves there was past life on the Red Planet. Media outlets only added to the hype by picking up the story and distributing it to the masses. NASA tried to squash the rumor by releasing a statement clarifying that the object is nothing more than a rock that was shaped by natural processes like wind or water erosion. It seems as though most people accepted this explanation and the buzz died down. But the story resurfaced last year, giving rise to a fresh round of claims that evidence of past life on Mars has been found. Thankfully, this time around, several news outlets were quick to set the record straight instead of appealing to shock value. Several articles reminded readers of NASA's 2014 statement about the object being a rock. In doing so, they mentioned how Mars may have once been able to host living organisms, but that these creatures would have been microscopic. There simply wasn't enough oxygen in the atmosphere for anything bigger to survive. But even the most rational explanation will fail to sway someone who truly wants to believe that there's more to the story. One way or another, they will always find a way to make sense of their views, even when doing so defies logic. Do you think there might have been ancient alien life forms on Mars? Let me know in the comments below, but first, be sure to subscribe. Number 4. Happy Face Crater. If you look at the Gall crater from a bird's eye view, you'll notice that it resembles a smiley face. Nicknamed the Happy Face crater, the face was first spotted in the 1970s during NASA's Viking Orbiter 1 mission. The crater is located near the Martian South Pole, which sees unforgiving winter temperatures that drop as low as -243 degrees Fahrenheit, -153 degrees Celsius. But the landscape isn't literally frozen in place, and the Gall crater's appearance is known to change from time to time. The amount of frost covering the ground varies depending on the time of the year. Moreover, the Happy Face's mouth has gotten noticeably bigger over the years, and its nose has transformed from 2 circles into one big haphazard blob. These changes are caused by thermal erosion and a process called sublimation. In a statement released last year, scientist Ross Bayer explained that the sun transforms carbon dioxide on the Martian surface directly from a solid to a gas. Last year, NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter discovered another Happy Face crater. This one didn't cause as much of an uproar, but skeptics claim that these are signs of ancient civilizations, much like our own Stonehenge. Number 3. A human. People have long been obsessed with the idea that there could be life on Mars. So it came as no surprise when NASA released new images of the Red Planet in 2008, and many people saw what they thought looked like a woman on the surface. Some even speculated that she was alive when the photos were taken. Scientists offered the far more rational, albeit boring explanation that the human-like figure is nothing more than a rock. They argued that this is just another example of people seeing shapes and objects in inanimate objects, like clouds, foods, and other things. Science blogger Benjamin Radford argued that people's interpretation of the object as a human indicates that there is indeed a psychological phenomenon at play, rather than scientific evidence of Martian life. He also explained that people failed to see other rock formations as possible life forms, although they could have easily perceived some of them as non-human creatures like a snake or an armadillo. Astronomer Phil Platt further discredited claims of a human being in the pictures by pointing out that the rock is just a few inches tall, meaning it's impossible for it to be a person. It seems as though it's just a classic example of the human mind's tendency to play tricks on itself and for people to see what they want to see, rather than what's really there. Number 2. Shining clouds. There aren't many cloudy days on Mars. Clouds typically appear near the equator during the coldest time of the year, when the planet is the furthest away from the sun in its orbit. But something unusual happened one Martian year ago, roughly 2 years in Earthly time, when clouds began to form earlier than expected. NASA's Curiosity rover captured images of the glimmering clouds, which are filled with ice crystals that makes them shine and sometimes even gives them different colors. Scientists are trying to understand why the clouds formed early and what's different about them versus typical Martian clouds. They noticed that these early clouds formed at a higher altitude than normal. A Martian cloud normally sits 37 miles 60 kilometers in the sky and is made from water ice, according to NASA. But these clouds sat in a much colder atmosphere and were therefore likely made of frozen carbon dioxide, also known as dry ice. Regardless of what they're made of, they're stunning to look at. Known as mother-of-pearl clouds, they have an iridescent sheen and display an array of pastel hues, making the clouds here on Earth boring in comparison. Number 1. A fossilized fish? If NASA received $1 for every time someone thought they saw an animal or human on Mars, their budget would probably be astronomical because it happens a lot. In 2015, the agency posted an image taken by the Curiosity rover of rocks scattered on the planet's floor. Soon enough, self-proclaimed UFO expert Scott Waring published a blog claiming that he spotted the fossilized remains of a fish-like ancient alien in the photo. In his opinion, the alleged creature resembled an amphibious fish called the mudskipper, which exists here on Earth. He added that the discovery points towards a body of water once existing on Mars. It's admittedly true that the red planet was home today to a body of water bigger than the Arctic Ocean. Scientists announced this the same year Waring discovered the fish. But the object is most certainly not an animal fossil. NASA did not immediately respond to Waring's outlandish claims, but that's probably because it wasn't the first time he told the world that he found something unusual on Mars. In fact, much of his blog is dedicated to identifying creatures, UFOs, and other signs of life there. After debunking many of these objects as rocks and other natural features, perhaps scientists hope that the rest of the population would get the idea. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and while you're at it, be sure to subscribe. See you next time for more amazing videos right here on American Eye.